Okay, everyone, welcome. My name is Pamela Taggi, and I'm the executive and artistic director here at Jacob's Pillow. And this is the start of Future Figures, exploring emerging technologies in dance. This is also one of the first public events we've had in the Jameson family lobby. It's thrilling to me that after 4.5 years, we have opened the Doris Duke Theater. And yes, I just want to take a minute. People are filtering in the room to give some thanks. I think I'm going to hold my thanks a minute just until they come in. But what we hope to do today is to really give you all a sense of what is happening at the intersection of dance and technology. We have an incredible group of artists who have advised the creation of this building and what it has inside of it and what its program should be. This is the Digital Futures think tank at Jacob's Pillow. I'm going to see if I can name them by heart. Brian Brooks, Grisha Coleman, Andrew Schneider. Say it again. Katie Kwan, Shamel Pitts, Catherine Helen Fisher. And the list goes on. Brian Brooks, I already said him. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great group of artists, and they are all here today in person, and it's just incredible to celebrate this moment. So in order to, I'm not sure how long you all are going to stay, but there are 4 conversations today. There's also a installation work in the Duke itself, and then an extended reality salon that features 2 works, a VR, the world premiere of Territory by Kinetic Light, and Aoyan Esteban's AR work called Zero AR, which takes the work of Sidi Larbi Cherkaoui and Akram Khan, their beautiful work, and puts it into an augmented reality personal experience for you. So to guide us through these conversations, we have Sydney Skybetter. Sydney is the director of the Brown Art Institute and has been an incredible support to Jacob's Pillow for years, first as a Pillow scholar and now as one of our primary advisors and members of the think tank. And now that they're in the room, I just have to acknowledge the fact that we would not have the Doris Duke Theater without the Doris Duke Foundation and their leadership gift. So please join me in thanking the Doris Duke Foundation. And the great triumvirate, the 3 foundations who came together, they were joined by the Knight Foundation, represented by their past president, Alberto Eberguin, today. And I have to say, current Pillow trustee, so we're so excited that he's joined the board. And also the Bar Foundation, represented by San San Wong, who is here, right here in the front. So it's these 3 foundations who gave us our anchor support and enabled us to mount our campaign, and we're 98% there. So if you haven't given, there's a little 2% we need to still get to. So I just want to then turn the program over to Sydney, and then we'll roll like this. There'll be a break in between the conversations, and we hope at the end of the day you will have a sense of where the field is right now. So thank you so much, Sydney.
Thank you, Pam, and you all. Want to note before we begin, not to make it awkward, but there are a few seats available if you would like to come on down and kind of make that a thing, and we'll all look at you as you come to the seats. Or I'll just keep talking. Yeah, please, come on down. I mean, no pressure. Now we're all looking at Suzanne, Callahan, everybody, yay. Okay, no, we're sitting back down. Okay, that will be a thing that lives on forever in the archives of Jacob's Pillow, and we could maybe move on from here. Greetings, nerds! A very exciting day today. Delighted to be in the room with you all. Indeed, welcome also to the first in a series of truly bonkers conversations today at the subject of dance performance and emerging technologies. Now, at a moment of profound upheaval, I'm thinking of generative AI here, among other things. How we make dances is being at least as disrupted as the why. And so we have assembled a truly incredible gaggle of folks to share their work and gesture towards the future still to come. Jacob's Pillow, as has been the case for the last 93, give or take, years, has long endeavored to be a bastion of the dance and to be a haven for futuristic modes of choreographic production that haven't yet been indeed fully figured. The future of our field depends on gatherings like this and artists like these. And so I'm deeply grateful to Pam and the entire Pillow team for making this possible. Can we please give them an effusive, embarrassing round of applause? Thank you. And to kick us off, it is truly my privilege and pleasure to introduce one of our strongest allies in the work, Jazia Hammoudi. Please, the floor is yours. Round of applause.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jazia Hammoudi. I'm the program director of Onassis Onyx. And it's truly a pleasure to be celebrating and supporting this new evolution of Jacob's Pillow with you all. I'm just going to take a few moments to talk a little bit about Onassis Onyx and the Onassis Foundation so that we can all figure out how we can work together to build a more beautiful future in performance and technology. So, Onassis Onyx is the Onassis Foundation's incubator and accelerator for new media artists across genre. Some of you may know the Onassis Foundation is this major cultural foundation based in Athens, Greece, that has been doing theater, performance arts, and dance for a very long time, and has opened this initiative, Onyx, in the last 5 years to really address and respond to the need to bring technology into creative conversations and creation. We work in primarily 2 ways, one with a cohort of artists and one with partners. So I'll tell you a little bit about how this works. With artists, we work with a membership of 82 artists from around the world, one of whom is in the room, Brandon Powers, back there, and Andrew Schneider, who spoke earlier. And we provide for these artists in both New York and Athens production space and tools, as well as internal opportunities for funding, for exhibitions, and for residencies. So we're really always looking for artists who we can support in the production, presentation, and distribution of challenging new work. With partners, to kind of complete the support of artists, we build residencies, presentation opportunities, and think tank and field building occasions to really get into how we can build a brighter future using the arts and technology. So again, for artists in particular, we provide incubation and acceleration in our 2 production studios in New York and Athens. We work on co-productions by looking for collaborative institutions to co-fund new works. And we consult consistently, curatorially, and technologically. Our team is made up of curators, artists, and creative technologists who are there to help artists create their work. And then showcase opportunities where we really look to bring work in progress artworks to populations like yourselves to help support these artists bring their work into the future. With partners and collaborating institutions, what we're really looking for and we're really hoping to get out of this amazing weekend that Pam and the Pillow team has put together is collaborative programming to support work coming out of our programs and yours. So we build residencies and fellowships. We're very, very excited to be working on the Collider Fellowship with Lincoln Center for the 2nd year in a row. We have a residency with MIT. We've built a summer school with NYU, and we're really looking to expand these incubation and learning opportunities. In terms of technical infrastructure, something that's really core to us is being able to provide technologies to artists. Our discussion in the morning really touched on the high cost of creating work with emerging technologies, and we really pride ourselves on being able to provide those tools to artists for free, 24/7, and then provide a team that can help you figure out how to use them. And then also we have global presentations. We work a lot with film festivals. We most recently co-produced and co-curated Tribeca Immersive. We work with IDFA, and at the foundation we have a few programs where we bring work from around the world, including Onassis Dance Days. So hopefully we'll see a pillow incubated project at the Onassis Dance Days next year. And we have Plasmata, which is the world's first large-scale outdoor digital biennial, for which we both commission and bring in partnership projects. So please do pitch after this conversation. Tell us about your exciting new work. These are some of our illustrious partners. We want to keep adding to this list, so please approach us. On the next slide, we have contact information. These are just some of our exciting works here. There's, no, that's not Brandon. Brandon's not up here, but I'll send you photos. There's Brandon over there doing this amazing AI choreographic work called Kinetic Diffusion. So please do take down our contact information. We're around all weekend, and we'd really love to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Clémence Debaig and Livia Massarelli of UK-based Unwired Dance Theatre. Their work poses questions about our sense of empathy when mediated through technology, indeed exploring what remote connection might look like. Please, a round of applause. We need a second. So, anybody know any dad jokes? What? No. Should I get off the mic? Oh.
I'm going to fill this time. So first I want to thank Onassis Onyx for co-presenting this exploration today. It's very important. We know that dance and technology takes partnership, and we're delighted. And thank you, Jazia, for your introduction. We can't help but notice this incredible new work of art that it was unveiled last Sunday. This is by Portland, Oregon-based Brenda Mallory. The work is called To Touch a Wide Span. She makes work with beeswax and cloth, and she harvested beeswax from Jacob's Garden right down the George Carter Road here. She took beeswax from here, and many of you may know already, but some of you don't know that this is Mohican land, and the Mohicans were forcibly removed from this area and now reside in Wisconsin, in Bowler, Wisconsin. So Brenda was gifted beeswax from a farm there, and she put it together with the beeswax from Jacob's Pillow to create this sculpture to somehow try to connect the Stockbridge Munsee back to their homeland through this work. 7 shades of red, one of the values of this building, informed by our Indigenous consultant, Jeffrey Gibson, is that we are making a building for, and all that we do today impacts the next 7 generations. So you'll see 7 layers of cladding outdoors, 7 stones between the Indigenous garden and the fire pit. So the 7 shades of red for the 7 generations, just to give you that background. How are we doing? Yes, thank you, thank you. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and just to let you know who's in the room, so we have members of our general public, of course, but we believe that this work can only progress with through collaboratively. So we have put funders together with artists. We have our Digital Futures think tank that I referenced earlier. So these are artists who've been helping us for 2 years in the creation of this building. The third partner is education. Educational institutions have great means to be able to experiment and develop, and we need to partner with them. And then the last are presenters. It's people like me and my colleagues, Melanie George and Kim Chan, the curatorial team here, who actually need to give artists support in how how to translate this work for an audience. It's not easy to wrap your head around. So it's going to take all 4 of these groups to work together. So we had a sort of pre-session in the morning, and now we're continuing to listen to artists. It's important for us. We can only know what we need to do if we understand what the needs are. So I'm just delighted to say that I saw this work thanks to one of the artists that was featured opening night, Alexander Whitley. He put together the first Digital Body Festival in London. And I witnessed this work. And the litmus test that I have is, does technology give me an experience that I couldn't otherwise have? Because I think the human body is the most beautiful thing to watch, the most beautiful technology in the world. So how does technology add to that experience and enhance it, and how can it be an element in the realization of a work? And I witnessed Where We Meet, which you're going to hear a bit about, and some of you experienced or will experience. And it entered me into a relationship with a dancer that I had never had before. So with that, I'll turn it over to Clémence Debaig and Livia Massarelli. Welcome.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for this beautiful intro. So my name is Clémence Debaig.
I am Livia Massarelli.
And we're going to talk about what we do at Unwired and how we combine movement, technology, and human connection in our work. So I'm a bit of a weird mix between a dance artist and a creative technologist. I am the artistic director of Unwired Dance Theatre, and I'm also a lecturer and researcher at Goldsmiths University. I'm going to show you a little bit of the work we do at Unwired, try to contextualize some of the things we want to tell you about Where We Meet, we're presenting here. Okay. So a lot of our work explores ideas of this, wait a minute, wrong sound. Is that sound coming? Oh, no. Bear with me. I'm sorry. That's okay. We're good. This one?
I don't.
No.
We do.
The sound is not really important. That's fine. I'll talk over it. So this piece of work you've been seeing behind While I'm Struggling is called Bother, and it's a good illustration of some of the mechanics we explore in our work of using a different setup and a different format to explore how people experience empathy, especially in formats that are mediated through technology. So in Bother, audiences were presented with 2 buttons, a red button and a blue button, and had to decide if they wanted to put the performer in front of them into a positive state or a very kind of negative and sad state. And we were really interested in how is this setup making people feel? Do they think they are allowed to go into difficult emotions because of the gamified setup, or are they feeling empathy towards the person in front of them? In Join Me Inside, I've been looking at how then to involve people and their body into the work. So this is a live video feed into a projection mapping setup onto pyramids, funnily enough at a festival on a haystack, which was quite fun. And they were looking at how they can create shapes with their own body and how they can reconnect and become playful with their own body. Leading on to Automata, which is, you're going to see in a second, a performance device. This is a garment that reacts to the movement of the dancer. And still interested in this idea of, are we talking of empathy? Are we talking actually about control? And starting from wanting to control the garment and the movement of the flowers of the garment, but the tech was so finicky, they ended up being the other way around. And actually, the mechanic of the garment was puppeteering the choreography, and then understanding that relationship between actually working with the tech, the body, and the constraint of it. In Strings, that has a first piece of work that has been made during the pandemic, actually supported by Kate Ladename. So, hi there. In Strings, audiences were able to join through a web app to make a decision onto which body part the dancer should be moving. And I made those connected haptics sensors that were giving feedback to the dancer, but really creating this kind of collaborative experience onto the live stream to make make a decision around, is this controlling the performer or are we feeling empathy towards that performer? And we carry on being really interested in presenting new formats to experience dance during the pandemic. In this piece of work called Results May Vary, audiences were reflecting on their experience of the pandemic and had to make a lot of choices during the performance, and we were reacting in real time, the visuals were reacting in real time, depending on their answers. Leaning on to remote intimacy, we had one performer in New York, one in London, and we were really exploring remote touch and what it meant to connect from a distance. I made this jacket that has connective fabric and haptics, so the dancers in real time can feel and touch each other from a distance. And looking at how we can transmit that also for the audience and what experience that communicates. And then I was really interested in how we can then bring the audience into the work. So a lot of this work was happening behind the screen, and I wanted to get them to come into the work with their own body. Started exploring work in WebXR, thanks to Brendan Brady, who's here, who supported that exploration here, and looking at how to bring live motion capture into web spaces so the audience can join into the space, either from a virtual reality headset or from their computer, which led to this piece of work called Discordance. You might have seen Lena Wolf was here, who was in London at Barnard Movement Lab while I was in London, we were looking at how to bring audiences from all different formats into the work and how we have two performers performing together in virtual spaces without barely having met before, actually. We did all this work remote, which led to Where We Meet, and actually Where We Meet started from really a need of rebringing the body and the human body into the work and exploring human connection in the way we haven't really done it before, and we're going to tell you way more about it in a second. Hopefully this is not going to give us too much spoiler for anyone who's planning to see the work, but hopefully we can dive into the process a bit more. I'm also the director of Unwired Studio, just to give a bit of context. I work with artists and bring the technology into their work. Artists such as Rebecca Evans from Pell Ensemble, been making a work called Hinterlands, that is a live mixed reality piece of work with live motion capture. And also I've been working a lot with Alexander Whitley Dance Company, working on Otmo, which is a software to compose movement with motion capture. And as I was saying, I'm also a researcher at Goldsmiths University in London, and I've been part of the Goldsmiths mocap streamer from the get-go of the project, exploring how dancers can interact together with live motion capture in remote setups. That's enough about me.
Hello everybody, my name is Livia Massarelli. I am the co-artistic director of Where We Meet, and I'm also the choreographer of the project and one of the performer. And in these images you have here, you will see a little bit of my previous works that are really rooted in the idea that dance might be an instrument to cultivate awareness of ourselves, awareness of others, and to cultivate well-being. And this is really connected to my practice as a meditation facilitator and well-being coach. So for me, it's really important to use art to create something that has an impact on people and that hopefully help us in becoming a little bit better humans, to support each other, to take care of ourselves and others. And in doing that, I've been collaborating with various artists because I wanted to have different perspectives and angles on how we can collaborate together, because for me and for us, collaboration is really important. So I've been working with visual artists, composers, and creative technologists to figure it out in how many ways, because I think we have infinite possibilities to use the body, as Pam was saying, to go back to ourselves and to live experiences. And I think like embodied experiences probably the strongest because we live in our bodies. Sorry, I was performing before somebody. I've been part, like before collaborating with Unwired, I was collaborating with a collective in Italy with the University of Rome Tor Vergata. There is a master in sound engineer and they had a collective. It was 10 years ago, and we were exploring motion capture to, in live time, modify the sound of a cello. So again, it was like how we can co-create art in the real time using the tech as an helper, basically, not as a protagonist, if it makes sense. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So you've had a snippet into the work we do, but to kind of summarize a little bit what we bring to audiences with Unwired is we're really making immersive and participatory experiences. And we're not taking participation lightly. It's really bringing agency into the work and really looking at how those new setups really kind of question our sense of empathy and intimacy, and especially when those interactions are mediated through technology. This is how we interact on our everyday life, and how, as a society, this is evolving the way we are connecting with each other. So we're really looking at how that technology is reshaping our relationship with each other, and that brings a lot of care into the work, that brings a lot of body into the work, and I feel that with where technology is going to at the moment, there's actually quite a strong kind of rebellion against that really strong tech-heavy world, and bringing humans back into it and human connection and empathy. That might be looking like what we've been doing with strings, so enabling the audience to collaborate with each other and then co-create the performance through interactions, or through where we meet, where we're actually bringing audiences into the work, bringing their body into the work and inviting them to participate and experience dance in a different way, and might be also in close proximity with the performers. That also means that we're making new formats, and what we found really interesting is actually we're bringing new audiences into dance. We've had a lot of our work that had first-time theatre goers or dance goers that have been experiencing it. And through that, we are bringing their body into the work through embodied participation. I'm going to give you an example through Discordance, where we had the audience in a headset in the virtual space with us. And what we found really interesting actually with virtual reality is that people are losing their own self-awareness, so that makes them move way more. And we had people really going full on. They're actually on stage at that point on the images you're seeing here, but they are completely participating and dancing into the space. What was interesting also with Discordance is that we had about 80% of people who had never seen dance before and became interested into it. So looking at how much we can increase the reach of the work, and then for them to started becoming more interested into the art form.
Yeah, so just a quick information about where we meet. That is, please stay alive, is the work we are presenting here. It is an immersive, interactive performance, as we said, in which people are walking around with headset, and if they approach the dancers, they can hear their inner thoughts. We have 3 different characters that have 3 different stories. They are going through some mental health challenges, and in the interaction, we basically share, the characters are sharing their coping mechanism with the audience. So the idea is to, first of all, experience empathy, but also support each other by sharing that there are solutions over there, and we can connect, and through connection, we can actually feel a little bit better. So it's not a dark work, I hope. That wasn't our intention. The intention is to bring, to create a safe space where people, in the way they want, can experience empathy, because you cannot force empathy, but we wanted to create the setting in which people can have the agency to choose how experience empathy. Yeah, next one.
So we're going to dive a little bit more into where we meet. The tech actually is an incredibly technical piece from a tech point of view, but we've set it up so that people can forget there's a lot of technology involved. The way this works is that we are tracking people in the space. We're only giving them headphones. There's a little tracker that looks like a little crown, and I think it's kind of cute. But they forget this is here, it's attached to the headphones, and then they have a patch around their neck, which allow them to just kind of move freely in the space. And what that does is, you have on this diagram, there's kind of virtual sound bubbles around each of the performers. So as people are approaching them, they have this feeling of entering their kind of inner world. We're also offering a seated observer option where people are moving themselves into the space by basically they see this view, this kind of top-down view, and then they're moving themselves with a finger. And we found that it's really important to offer the option. Not everyone wants to participate, not everyone wants to be in close proximity, and having kind of a choice in this immersive format.
So, as Clem was saying, the structure of the work is pretty complex. So also like the dance structure is pretty complex because we have a lot of contents. And so it's like a puzzle. And I've been working with the dancer a lot to create some movement anchors. That's how we call it, some set phrases. So there is a very specific choreography created, but there is also a lot of space for improvisation, because obviously the structure needs to be flexible because each performance is different, because it depends on how people are interacting or not interacting with us. So we have a mix of very specific improvisation, because it needs to be based on the characters, obviously, and set choreography that vary depending on like how we are interacting with the audience. Another thing I want to say is that in this work, the performers are holding a lot of responsibilities, because they really need to be present in their dance performance. That obviously is important, and we want to keep up the quality of the dance because it is important, but also they need to take care of the interaction with people and the interaction with the tech, because we are holding a device to choose which content we want to share with the people based on how the interaction is happening. So there is a lot to manage. That's why we meditate before.
So we want to tell you a little bit more about how we have made this type of work, and actually this is a process we're following a lot in a lot of our pieces with Unwired. The key point is that we don't make technical work behind the computer, and that's really key when it comes to bringing movement into the practice. Yes, there's a lot of time behind the computer, we still need to do things on it, but how do we bring this back into the studio? How do we bring this back into the body? And so we create playgrounds, and then we try to create prototypes, so then we can go back into the space and experiment, feel how the tech feel, iterate, and then also have the space to fail and experiment. And part of that is also bringing audiences into the work and then playtesting several times and again until we get this right. So what that looked like for Unwired, this is just a bit of the perspective for the dancers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the process, like this type of processes are really different from a traditional dance process, as most of us know probably, because when you work with tech, you have another very big character in the room, and you need to take care of that. So it brings a lot of also challenges that we try to see as opportunities to find different ways to approach the creative process. So, for example, in Where We Meet, we had very specific boundaries, time, space-wise, for example, so we needed to figure out ways to work around it and take the most out of it. And also the way we manage rehearsals, like we need to collaborate and communicate as a team, because the dancers need to take care of their bodies, but sometimes maybe we need to stop because we need to take care of something about the text. So it's really about figuring out a certain flexibility in the process that can allow everybody to like contribute in the best way possible. That requires obviously communication and collaboration. Yeah, I think that's the process.
That's the process. It looks like that. What I find really interesting in making this type of work is actually it's never linear, and then movement and tech work on different timelines. It might be a case that sometimes we have an idea and it might take 2 weeks to build it before we can experience it in the studio. So how do we manage resources, spaces, and cast? We can't have anyone lying around just for 3 weeks. So you have a lot of those moments of kind of working separately and then coming back together. The work actually started from a 3-day hackathon that's called the Danceathon. We had an idea, we're like, great, what do we do with this now? And then how do we actually produce this? How do we fund this? Who's leading this? So we had a kind of series of little opportunities, and that's how we progressed the work. Mini residencies and mini moments where we're coming together. And it was a lot of time of like doing things separately, coming back into the studio, learning, iterating, and figuring things out. I'm like, okay, we know what we need to do for the next iteration and going back. And that kind of leads me to my kind of final little words. What I found really interesting in doing this work is it's not really what happens in a 2-week residency. It's like, how do we get from A to B and having something that can actually be shown to an audience as a final piece of work? And there's not a lot of institutional support, especially in the UK, for this. And I'm so happy that we got this when we come here. I love hearing what Onyx is doing as well. But please keep doing this, because I feel like artists have had to develop so many different skill sets and new skill sets to actually bring this type of work. I've turned into a producer. I never wanted to do that. I wanted to make work, but actually it's very difficult to kind of bring other people who have the right skill set to support. So we've had to kind of turn into those kind of chameleons, kind of weirdos that can do a lot of different things and wear different hats. I know, love that. So yeah, a lot of resilience, and we're just really happy to see people experiencing the work. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah, no, totally. Well, the distance between us is great. But before we get into anything, acknowledging the technical complexity of the work itself, which I have a ton of follow-up questions on, can we also just give a round of applause to our production crew who is live improvising with us with microphones and PowerPoint and video? Couldn't do any of this without them. So many questions for y'all, but I'd love to maybe start with this notion of empathy, actually. And so I'm struck, as is the case with so much performance and heavily technologized work, of the degree of hardware required to foster a sense of embodied empathy. And it requires a great deal of technology, or you're activating a great deal of technology so as to get to a kind of core human and embodied experience. And so I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the tension or relationship between all of the hardware and all of the techne and the kind of the fleshy empathic intention.
I have a lot of thoughts about what you just asked. There's one thing I want to say as well, is that with technology, and especially I'm going to mention virtual reality, there's a lot of potential for really intense emotions because of the level of immersion. And there are some kind of, there's a side of that work that people might be using the term empathy machine, and that's not what we're doing. It's the opposite of that. So because of the possibility of intense emotions, there's been some work out there that's very much like, we're going to show you some really, really intense, horrible thing. You need to feel things about this. And that's really not what the work we're doing. What we're doing is how we using this to enable a connection with another human beings, and not necessarily about the topic itself. And empathy, so at the core is actually intimacy, but there's no intimacy without empathy towards the other, so that's why we're using this term as well. And this is a very subtle, fluttering thing that things can get in the way really quickly. So in early part of the process, when we were playtesting, we had a lot of things that were failing because we're working with tech. And then suddenly you broke the magic. And then bringing the audience back onto that journey is actually really, really difficult. So getting something that is either stable enough or that is recoverable enough to bring people back on the train is actually really important. And so that comes from process, and that comes from learning how to kind of tame the beast we've just made. And also, I would say that we don't just create the work, we create journeys. So that also comes from how we onboard people, how we outboard people. And it took us about 2 years to get that right, and then several residencies and iterations to figure out what's the language, what moments do we need to bring in to kind of sequence that properly.
Can I add something? Yeah, something that I think it's really important for us is to, as Clem was saying, we don't want to decide for other people what they need to feel. I think this is really important. We want to provide a space where they can have the choice. And as I was saying before, empathy is not something that you can simply trigger. We can create the elements so people can decide how to approach. That's why, for example, in Where We Meet, we worked really hard to try, and we will probably need to still work to figure it out, how people can keep the agency, or how much do they want to engage and how do they want to engage. Because I think we need to really respect human beings and their agency and their freedom, and choosing for them, I think, is not what we want to do. So this is why we were really questioning ourselves about how we can keep this freedom, but still having a journey that has some milestones for people to go through.
Well, in this process of questioning oneself, either of you can have the microphone, that's fine. This process of questioning yourself seems to be a kind of iterative mode of indeed learning how to make the work and share and present the work. And so my follow-up question is about all of the ways that your process and practice have grown or expanded or diverged from your intentions over the years. And so you clearly maintain a sense of reverence for the embodied form and for embodied performance, for dance-related technique and performance technique. But I'm also really curious, all of the ways that you have grown to fit the multi-dimensional apparatus that you are now sustaining. I'm thinking in terms of how you've grown in terms of arts administration or production or dramaturgy and pedagogy or the experience of the live performer. Like all of the works signals opportunities for growth or expansion. And I wonder if you can talk about like how you manage that, like the prismatic. Sorry,
How much time do we have?
Yeah. In 4.5 minutes or less.
Okay. I start, and I'm sure you can add a lot of things. I would say, obviously, as you said, like you start with an intention and going through the process, meeting other people. Those intentions are kind of growing and expanding. And collaboration has always been like one keyword for me, but I think I can speak for both of us. We had worked with a dramaturg, composer, so we brought a lot of people in the room because we know that we didn't have enough skill set to cover everything, and we wanted to have different perspectives. So obviously we came up with the idea, and from that we were looking around in the world who else could add something on that, for example, on this topic in particular. And I stop here because otherwise long. You can say something.
I'm going to echo what Livia was saying around collaboration. I think this is crucial. But there's also the reality of sometimes there's just no resources to collaborate. And it comes down to money. Like, I can't always ask someone to jump in and be like, hey, do you want to do this weird thing with me? It's going to take you about 6 months and I have absolutely zero budget. So that led to just picking up skills from a necessity. And also, for context, I'm a massive nerd. I've always been working with tech. Who would say? So there's a curiosity of wanting to explore those formats as a starting point, and realize that requires a lot of resources. So part of that was also just, I need to learn how to do this myself as a starting point, because I don't have the funds to pay someone to do it for me. And that's not something I would recommend. And I know there's a lot of artists in the room that actually have a bit of that kind of dual skill set, which is really fun, but also I do prefer working with other people in bigger teams because we can scale up, we can go much further. It requires more kind of collaboration and organization skill, which is different, but I think, there's just the reality of we had to. Otherwise, it was just like not making the work, and then we had to learn on the fly.
Well, so we have a luxurious 2.5 minutes before we have to break. I guess my final question, if you had to gesture or signpost for our audience one thing that you wished they understood either about your work or the process of making work such as yours, I'm curious what that would be. What do you want everybody in this room to know about your work?
I'm going to say that I want you to leave this room by thinking that the person right next to you is someone who might have more in common that you think. And hopefully, if you see the performance, you might pick up a couple of moments where you felt connected with the person right next to you who might be a total stranger.
Wow. Yeah, I think this is Also, I would say remembering that even when outside in the world, it's a little bit harder to find those spaces where we can actually come together and connect. We are here and we are having this conversation, so I think it's really important to remind that we can still be the change we want to see in the world. Yeah, so keep putting seeds, because at the beginning we don't see the result, and it requires a lot of resilience to wait after you plant the seed. But at a certain point, if we take care of things, the little plant will grow. That's what I remind myself every day, and what we remind ourselves every day, basically, when we are in crisis for the project. So I think that's, but usually it's fine. We are fine. But yeah, that's probably it.
Well, thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for Livia and Clémence.